Solomon the son of David was strengthened in his kingdom, and Yahweh his God was with him, and magnified him exceedingly. In that night God appeared to Solomon, and said to him, Ask what I shall give you. Solomon said to God, You have shown great loving kindness to David my father, and have made me king in his place. Now, Yahweh God, let your promise to David my father be established, for you have made me king over a people like the dust of the earth in multitude. Now give me wisdom and knowledge, that I may go out and come in before this people. For who can judge this great people of yours? God said to Solomon, Because this was in your heart, and you have not asked riches, wealth, or honor, nor the life of those who hate you, neither yet have asked long life, but have asked wisdom and knowledge for yourself, that you may judge my people, over whom I have made you king. Wisdom and knowledge is granted to you. I will give you riches, wealth, and honor, such as none of the kings have had who have been before you, neither shall there any after you have the like. Now Solomon purposed to build a house for the name of Yahweh, and a house for his kingdom. Solomon sent to Hiram the king of Tyre, saying, Behold, I am about to build a house for the name of Yahweh, my God, to dedicate it to him, and to burn before him incense of sweet spices. The house which I build is great for great, is our God above all gods. But who is able to build him a house, since heaven and the heaven of heavens can't contain him? Send me now, therefore, a man skillful to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass, and in iron, and in purple, crimson, and blue. Hiram the king of Tyre answered, Because Yahweh loves his people, he has made you king over them. Blessed be Yahweh, the God of Israel, who made heaven and earth, who has given to David the king a wise son, endowed with discretion and understanding, who would build a house for Yahweh. Then Solomon began to build the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem on Mount Moriah, where Yahweh appeared to David his father, which he made ready in the place that David had appointed, in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. He began to build in the 2nd day of the 2nd month, in the 4th year of his reign. He made the most holy place. He overlaid it with fine gold. He made in the most holy place 2 cherubim, and overlaid them with gold. He made the veil of blue and purple and crimson and fine linen, and worked cherubim on it. He set up the pillars before the temple, one on the right hand and the other on the left. Solomon made an altar of brass, 20 cubits its length, and 20 cubits its breadth, and 10 cubits its height. Also he made the molten sea of 10 cubits from brim to brim, round in compass, and its height was 5 cubits. He made also 10 lampstands of gold, according to the ordinance concerning them, and he set them in the temple, 5 on the right hand, and 5 on the left. He made also 10 tables, and placed them in the temple, 5 on the right side, and 5 on the left. He made 100 basins of gold. Thus all the work that Solomon did for the house of Yahweh was finished. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel, and all the heads of the tribes, the princes of the fathers' houses of the children of Israel, to Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, out of the city of David, which is Zion. The priests brought in the ark of the covenant of Yahweh to its place, into the inner sanctuary of the house, to the most holy place, even under the wings of the cherubim. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets, which Moses put there at Horeb, when Yahweh made a covenant with the children of Israel, when they came out of Egypt. It happened, when the priests had come out of the holy place, that the singers and trumpeters were as one, to make one sound to be heard in praising and thanking Yahweh. And when they lifted up their voice with the trumpets and cymbals and instruments of music, and praised Yahweh, saying, For he is good, for his loving kindness endures forever, that then the house was filled with a cloud, even the house of Yahweh, so that the priest could not stand to minister by reason of the cloud, for the glory of Yahweh filled the house of God. Then Solomon said, Yahweh has said that he would dwell in the thick darkness, but I have built you a house of habitation, and a place for you to dwell in forever. Solomon stood before the altar of Yahweh in the presence of all the assembly of Israel, and spread forth his hands, for Solomon had made a bronze platform, and had set it in the midst of the court, and on it he stood, and kneeled down on his knees before all the assembly of Israel, and spread forth his hands toward heaven. He said, Yahweh, the God of Israel, there is no God like you in the heavens or on the earth, you, who keep covenant and loving kindness with your servants, who walk before you with all their heart. But will God in very deed dwell with men on the earth? Behold, heaven and the heaven of heavens can't contain you, how much less this house, which I have built. Yet have respect for the prayer of your servant, and to his supplication, Yahweh, my God, that your eyes may be open toward this house day and night, even toward the place of which you have said that you would put your name there, to listen to the prayer which your servant prays toward this place. Listen to the petitions of your servant, and of your people Israel, when they shall pray toward this place. Yes, hear from your dwelling place, even from heaven, and when you hear, forgive. Moreover, concerning the foreigner, who is not of your people Israel, when he shall come from a far country, for your great name's sake, when they shall come and pray toward this house, then hear from heaven, even from your dwelling place, and do according to all that the foreigner calls to you, for that all the peoples of the earth may know your name, and fear you, as does your people Israel. Now when Solomon had made an end of praying, the fire came down from heaven, and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of Yahweh filled the house. The priests could not enter into the house of Yahweh, because the glory of Yahweh filled Yahweh's house. All the children of Israel looked on when the fire came down, and the glory of Yahweh was on the house. And they bowed themselves with their faces to the ground on the pavement, and worshipped, and gave thanks to Yahweh, saying, For he is good, for his loving kindness endures forever. Yahweh appeared to Solomon by night, and said to him, I have heard your prayer, and have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up the sky so that there is no rain, or if I command the locust to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves, and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. Now my eyes will be open, and my ears attentive to the prayer that is made in this place. For now have I chosen and made this house holy, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. As for you, if you will walk before me as David your father walked, and do according to all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and my ordinances, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom, according as I covenanted with David your father, saying, There shall not fail you a man to be ruler in Israel. When the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon, she came to Jerusalem to prove Solomon with hard questions, having a very great train, and camels that bore spices, and gold in abundance, and precious stones. When she had come to Solomon, she talked with him of all that was in her heart. Solomon told her all her questions, and there was not anything hidden from Solomon which he didn't tell her. When the queen of Sheba had seen the wisdom of Solomon, and the house that he had built, there was no more spirit in her. She said to the king, It was a true report that I heard in my own land of your acts and of your wisdom. However, I didn't believe their words until I came, and my eyes had seen it, and behold, the half of the greatness of your wisdom was not told me. You exceed the fame that I heard. Happy are your men, and happy are these your servants, who stand continually before you and hear your wisdom. Blessed be Yahweh your God, who delighted in you to set you on his throne, to be king for Yahweh your God, because your God loved Israel, to establish them forever. Therefore he made you king over them, to do justice and righteousness. King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. All the kings of the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel 40 years. Solomon slept with his fathers, and he was buried in the city of David his father, and Rehoboam his son reigned in his place. Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel had come to Shechem to make him king. Jeroboam and all Israel came and spoke to Rehoboam, saying, Your father made our yoke grievous. Now therefore make the grievous service of your father, and his heavy yoke which he put on us, lighter, and we will serve you. He said to them, Come again to me after 3 days. King Rehoboam took counsel with the old men, who had stood before Solomon his father while he yet lived, saying, What counsel do you give me to return answer to this people? They spoke to him, saying, If you are kind to this people, and please them, and speak good words to them, then they will be your servants forever. But he forsook the counsel of the old men which they had given him, and took counsel with the young man who had grown up with him, who stood before him. The young man who had grown up with him spoke to him, saying, Thus you shall tell them, My little finger is thicker than my father's waist. My father loaded you with a heavy yoke, but I will add to your yoke. My father chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. So the king didn't listen to the people, for it was brought about by God that Yahweh might establish his word. When all Israel saw that the king didn't listen to them, the people answered the king, saying, What portion have we in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to your tents, Israel. Now see to your own house, David. So all Israel departed to their tents. So Israel rebelled against the house of David to this day. When Rehoboam had come to Jerusalem, he gathered the house of Judah and Benjamin, 180,000 chosen men who were warriors, to fight against Israel to bring the kingdom again to Rehoboam. But the word of Yahweh came to Shemaiah the man of God, saying, Tell Rehoboam, Thus says Yahweh, You shall not go up, nor fight against your brothers. Every man return to his house, for this thing is of me. So they listened to the words of Yahweh, and returned from going against Jeroboam. Rehoboam lived in Jerusalem, and built cities for defense in Judah. It happened, when the kingdom of Rehoboam was established, and he was strong, that he forsook the law of Yahweh, and all Israel with him. It happened that, because they had trespassed against Yahweh, in the 5th year of King Rehoboam, Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem with 1,200 chariots and 60,000 horsemen. He took the fortified cities which pertained to Judah and came to Jerusalem. Now Shemaiah the prophet came to Rehoboam and to the princes of Judah and said to them, Thus says Yahweh, You have forsaken me, therefore have I also left you in the hand of Shishak. Then the princes of Israel and the king humbled themselves, and they said, Yahweh is righteous. When Yahweh saw that they humbled themselves, the word of Yahweh came to Shemaiah, saying, They have humbled themselves. I will not destroy them, but I will grant them some deliverance. Rehoboam slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of David, and Abijah his son reigned in his place. In the 18th year of King Jeroboam began Abijah to reign over Judah. There was war between Abijah and Jeroboam. Abijah stood up on Mount Zemaraim and said, Hear me, Jeroboam and all Israel. Don't you know that Yahweh, the God of Israel, gave the kingdom over Israel to David forever, even to him and to his sons? As for us, Yahweh is our God, and we have not forsaken him. We keep the duty of Yahweh our God. Behold, God is with us at our head. Children of Israel, don't you fight against Yahweh, the God of your fathers, for you shall not prosper. But Jeroboam set an ambush behind them. When Judah looked back, behold, the battle was before and behind them. And they cried to Yahweh, and the priests sounded with the trumpets. Then the men of Judah gave a shout, and as the men of Judah shouted, God struck Jeroboam and all Israel before Abijah and Judah. The children of Judah prevailed, because they relied on Yahweh, the God of their fathers. Abijah slept with his fathers, and Asa his son reigned in his place. In his days the land was quiet 10 years. Asa did that which was good and right in the eyes of Yahweh his God. For he took away the foreign altars and the high places, and broke down the pillars, and cut down the Asherim, and commanded Judah to seek Yahweh, the God of their fathers, and to do the law and the commandment. He built fortified cities in Judah, for the land was quiet, and he had no war in those years, because Yahweh had given him rest. He said to Judah, Let us build these cities, and make walls around them, with towers, gates, and bars. The land is yet before us, because we have sought Yahweh our God. We have sought him, and he has given us rest on every side. So they built and prospered. The Spirit of God came on Azariah the son of Oded, and he went out to meet Asa, and said to him, Hear me, Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin. Yahweh is with you, while you are with him, and if you seek him, he will be found by you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you. Be strong, therefore, and don't let your hands be slack, for your work shall be rewarded. When Asa heard these words, he took courage, and put away the abominations out of all the land of Judah and Benjamin, and renewed the altar of Yahweh. They gathered themselves together at Jerusalem. They sacrificed to Yahweh in that day of the plunder which they had brought, 700 head of cattle and 7,000 sheep. They entered into the covenant to seek Yahweh, the God of their fathers, with all their heart and with all their soul. They swore to Yahweh with a loud voice, and with shouting, and with trumpets, and with cornets. All Judah rejoiced at the oath, for they had sworn with all their heart, and sought him with their whole desire. And he was found by them. Yahweh gave them rest all around. In the 36th year of the reign of Asa, Baasha, king of Israel, went up against Judah. Then Asa brought out silver and gold out of the treasures of the house of Yahweh and of the king's house, and sent to Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, saying, Let there be a treaty between me and you. At that time Hanani the seer came to Asa, king of Judah, and said to him, Because you have relied on the king of Syria, and have not relied on Yahweh, your God, therefore is the army of the king of Syria escaped out of your hand. For the eyes of Yahweh run back and forth throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in the behalf of those whose heart is perfect toward him. In this you have done foolishly, for from now on you shall have wars. Asa slept with his fathers, and Jehoshaphat his son reigned in his place. Jehoshaphat his son reigned in his place, and strengthened himself against Israel. Yahweh was with Jehoshaphat, because he walked in the first ways of his father David, and didn't seek the Baals, but sought the God of his father, and walked in his commandments. Therefore Yahweh established the kingdom in his hand, and all Judah brought to Jehoshaphat tribute, and he had riches and honor in abundance. His heart was lifted up in the ways of Yahweh. He sent teachers throughout all the cities of Judah, and they taught among the people, having the book of the law of Yahweh with them. Now Jehoshaphat had riches and honor in abundance, and he joined affinity with Ahab. After some years he went down to Ahab to Samaria. Ahab, king of Israel, said to Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, Will you go with me to Ramoth Gilead? Jehoshaphat said, Please inquire first for the word of Yahweh. Then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, 400 men, and said to them, "Shall we go to Ramoth-Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear?" They said, "Go up, for God will deliver it into the hand of the king." But Jehoshaphat said, "Isn't there here a prophet of Yahweh besides, that we may inquire of him?" The king of Israel said, "There is yet one man by whom we may inquire of Yahweh, but I hate him. For he never prophesies good concerning me, but always evil. The same is Micaiah, the son of Imlah." When he had come to the king said to him, "Micaiah, shall we go to Ramoth-Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear?" Micaiah said, "I saw all Israel scattered on the mountains, as sheep that have no shepherd. Yahweh said, These have no master. Let them each return to his house in peace." The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "Didn't I tell you that he would not prophesy good concerning me, but evil?" So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat the king of Judah went up to Ramoth-Gilead. A certain man drew his bow at random and struck the king of Israel between the joints of the armor. He died at evening, just as Micaiah had foretold. Jehoshaphat the king of Judah returned to his house in peace to Jerusalem. He set judges in the land throughout all the fortified cities of Judah, city by city, and said to the judges, "Consider what you do, for you don't judge for man, but for Yahweh, and he is with you in the judgment. Now therefore let the fear of Yahweh be on you. Take heed and do it, for there is no iniquity with Yahweh our God, nor respect of persons, nor taking of bribes." It happened after this, that the children of Moab and the children of Ammon, and with them some of the Ammonites, came against Jehoshaphat to battle. Jehoshaphat was alarmed, and set himself to seek to Yahweh. He proclaimed a fast throughout all Judah. Judah gathered themselves together to seek help of Yahweh. Even out of all the cities of Judah they came to seek Yahweh. Jehoshaphat stood in the assembly of Judah and Jerusalem, in the house of Yahweh, and said, "Yahweh, the God of our fathers, aren't you God in heaven? Aren't you ruler over all the kingdoms of the nations? In your hand is power and might, so that none is able to withstand you. Now behold, the children of Ammon and Moab come to cast us out of your possession, which you have given us to inherit. Our God, will you not judge them? For we have no might against this great company that comes against us, neither know we what to do, but our eyes are on you." Then the Spirit of Yahweh came in the midst of the assembly upon Jahaziel, and he said, "Listen, all Judah, and you inhabitants of Jerusalem, and you, King Jehoshaphat, thus says Yahweh to you, Don't be afraid, neither be dismayed by reason of this great multitude. For the battle is not yours, but God's. You shall not need to fight in this battle. Set yourselves, stand still, and see the salvation of Yahweh with you, O Judah and Jerusalem. Don't be afraid, nor be dismayed. Tomorrow go out against them, for Yahweh is with you." Jehoshaphat bowed his head with his face to the ground, and all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem fell down before Yahweh, worshiping Yahweh. They rose early in the morning and went forth into the wilderness of Tekoa. When they had taken counsel with the people, Jehoshaphat appointed those who should sing to Yahweh and give praise in holy array, as they went out before the army, and say, "Give thanks to Yahweh, for his loving kindness endures forever." When they began to sing and to praise, Yahweh set ambushes against the children of Ammon, Moab, and Mount Seir, who had come against Judah, and they were struck. For the children of Ammon and Moab stood up against the inhabitants of Mount Seir, utterly to kill and destroy them. And when they had made an end of the inhabitants of Seir, everyone helped to destroy another. When Judah came to the place overlooking the wilderness, they looked at the multitude, and behold, they were dead bodies fallen to the earth, and there were none who escaped. So they returned to Jerusalem with joy, for Yahweh had made them to rejoice over their enemies. Jehoshaphat slept with his fathers, and Jehoram his son reigned in his place. Now when Jehoram had risen up over the kingdom of his father, and had strengthened himself, he killed all his brothers with the sword. He walked in the way of the kings of Israel, as did the house of Ahab, for he had the daughter of Ahab as wife. He did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh. The inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, Jehoram's youngest son, king in his place. He also walked in the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother was his counselor in doing wickedly. Now when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the royal family of the house of Judah. But Jehoshabeath, the daughter of the king, took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the king's sons who were slain, and put him and his nurse in the bedroom. So Jehoshabeath hid him from Athaliah, so that she didn't kill him. He was with them hidden in the house of God 6 years, and Athaliah reigned over the land. In the 7th year Jehoiada strengthened himself, and took the captains of hundreds into covenant with him. They brought out the king's son, and put the crown on him, and gave him the testimony, and made him king. And Jehoiada and his sons anointed him, and they said, "Long live the king." When Athaliah heard the noise of the people running and praising the king, she came to the people and to the house of Yahweh, and she looked, and behold, the king stood by his pillar at the entrance, and the captains and the trumpets by the king, and all the people of the land rejoiced, and blew trumpets. Then Athaliah tore her clothes, and said, "Treason! Treason!" They made way for her, and she was put to death. Jehoiada made a covenant between himself and all the people and the king, that they should be Yahweh's people. All the people went to the house of Baal, and broke it down, and broke his altars and his images in pieces. All the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet. Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. Joash did that which was right in the eyes of Yahweh all the days of Jehoiada the priest. It happened after this, that Joash intended to restore the house of Yahweh. He gathered together the priests and the Levites, and said to them, "Go out to the cities of Judah, and gather money to repair the house of your God." So the workmen worked, and the work was perfected by them. And they set up the house of God in its state, and strengthened it. So the people brought in abundantly, and the service of the house of Yahweh was set in order. But Jehoiada grew old, and was full of days, and he died. After the death of Jehoiada came the princes of Judah, and bowed down to the king. Then the king listened to them. They forsook the house of Yahweh, the God of their fathers, and served the Asherim and the idols. And wrath came on Judah and Jerusalem for this their guiltiness. Yet he sent prophets to them to bring them again to Yahweh, and they testified against them, but they would not listen. The Spirit of God came on Zechariah the son of Jehoiada the priest, and he stood above the people, and said to them, "Thus says God, why do you disobey the commandments of Yahweh, so that you can't prosper? Because you have forsaken Yahweh, he has also forsaken you." They conspired against him, and at the commandment of the king, they killed him in the court of the house of Yahweh. Thus Joash the king didn't remember the kindness which Jehoiada his father had done to him, but killed his son. It happened at the end of the year that the army of the Syrians came up against him, and they came to Judah and Jerusalem. The servants of Joash conspired against him, and killed him on his bed, and he died. Amaziah was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. He did that which was right in the eyes of Yahweh, but not with a perfect heart. Now it happened, after that Amaziah had come from the slaughter of the Edomites, that he brought the gods of the children of Seir, and set them up to be his gods, and bowed down himself before them, and burned incense to them. Therefore the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Amaziah, And he sent to him a prophet, who said to him, Why have you sought after the gods of the people, which have not delivered their own people out of your hand? From the time that Amaziah turned away from following Yahweh, they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent after him to Lachish and killed him there. All the people of Judah took Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and made him king in the place of his father Amaziah. He did that which was right in the eyes of Yahweh, according to all that his father Amaziah had done. He set himself to seek God in the days of Zechariah, who had understanding in the vision of God, and as long as he sought Yahweh, God made him to prosper. He went forth and warred against the Philistines, and broke down the wall of Gath. God helped him against the Philistines. His name spread far abroad, for he was marvelously helped, until he was strong. But when he was strong, his heart was lifted up, so that he did corruptly, and he trespassed against Yahweh, his God. For he went into the temple of Yahweh to burn incense on the altar of incense. Azariah the priest went in after him, and with him 80 priests of Yahweh, who were valiant men, and they resisted Uzziah the king, and said to him, It isn't for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to Yahweh, but for the priests, the sons of Aaron, who are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, for you have trespassed, neither shall it be for your honor from Yahweh God. Then Uzziah was angry, and he had a censer in his hand to burn incense. And while he was angry with the priests, the leprosy broke out in his forehead before the priest in the house of Yahweh, beside the altar of incense. Uzziah the king was a leper to the day of his death, and lived in a separate house, being a leper, for he was cut off from the house of Yahweh. Uzziah slept with his fathers, and Jotham his son reigned in his place. Jotham was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. He did that which was right in the eyes of Yahweh, according to all that his father Uzziah had done. However, he didn't enter into the temple of Yahweh. So Jotham became mighty, because he ordered his ways before Yahweh his God. Jotham slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and Ahaz his son reigned in his place. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. He didn't do that which was right in the eyes of Yahweh, like David his father, but he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, and made also molten images for the Baals. Moreover, he burnt incense in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and burnt his children in the fire, according to the abominations of the nations whom Yahweh cast out before the children of Israel. In the time of his distress he trespassed yet more against Yahweh, this same king Ahaz. For he sacrificed to the gods of Damascus, which had struck him. And he said, Because the gods of the kings of Syria helped them, I will sacrifice to them, that they may help me. But they were the ruin of him, and of all Israel. Hezekiah began to reign when he was 25 years old, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. He did that which was right in the eyes of Yahweh, according to all that David his father had done. He, in the first year of his reign, in the first month, opened the doors of the house of Yahweh, and repaired them. He brought in the priests and the Levites, and said to them, Listen to me, you Levites. Now sanctify yourselves, and sanctify the house of Yahweh, the God of your fathers, and carry out the filthiness out of the holy place. For our fathers have trespassed, and done that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh our God, and have forsaken him. Now it is in my heart to make a covenant with Yahweh, the God of Israel, that his fierce anger may turn away from us. Then the Levites arose, and they sanctified themselves, and went in, according to the commandment of the king, by the words of Yahweh, to cleanse the house of Yahweh. They began on the first day of the first month to sanctify, and they made an end. So the service of the house of Yahweh was set in order. Hezekiah rejoiced, and all the people, because of that which God had prepared for the people, for the thing was done suddenly. Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah, and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem, to keep the Passover to Yahweh, the God of Israel. So the couriers passed from city to city, saying, You children of Israel, turn again to Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, that he may return to the remnant that are escaped of you out of the hand of the kings of Assyria. Don't be like your fathers, who trespassed against Yahweh. Now don't be stiff-necked as your fathers were, but yield yourselves to Yahweh, and enter into his sanctuary, and serve Yahweh your God, that his fierce anger may turn away from you. For Yahweh your God is gracious and merciful, and will not turn away his face from you if you return to him. A great assembly gathered together at Jerusalem to keep the feast of unleavened bread. They killed the Passover. The children of Israel who were present at Jerusalem kept the feast of unleavened bread 7 days with great gladness. There was great joy in Jerusalem, for since the time of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, there was nothing like this in Jerusalem. Then the priests, the Levites, arose and blessed the people, and their voice was heard, and their prayer came up to his holy habitation, even to heaven. Now when all this was finished, all Israel who were present went out to the cities of Judah, and broke in pieces the pillars, and cut down the Asherim, and broke down the high places and the altars. In every work that Hezekiah began in the service of the house of God, and in the law, and in the commandments, to seek his God, he did it with all his heart, and prospered. After these things, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came, and entered into Judah, and encamped against the fortified cities. Hezekiah the king, and Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, prayed because of this, and cried to heaven. Yahweh sent an angel, who cut off all the mighty men of valor, and the leaders and captains in the camp of the king of Assyria. So he returned with shame of face to his own land. Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and Manasseh his son reigned in his place. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. He did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, after the abominations of the nations whom Yahweh cast out before the children of Israel. Yahweh spoke to Manasseh and to his people, but they gave no heed. Therefore Yahweh brought on them the captains of the army of the king of Assyria, who took Manasseh in chains, and bound him with fetters, and carried him to Babylon. When he was in distress, he begged Yahweh his God, and humbled himself greatly before the God of his fathers. He prayed to him, and he was entreated of him, and heard his supplication, and brought him again to Jerusalem into his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that Yahweh was God. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. He did that which was right in the eyes of Yahweh, and walked in the ways of David his father, and didn't turn aside to the right hand or to the left. When they brought out the money that was brought into the house of Yahweh, Hilkiah the priest found the book of the law of Yahweh given by Moses. It happened, when the king had heard the words of the law, that he tore his clothes. The king stood in his place and made a covenant before Yahweh, to walk after Yahweh, and to keep his commandments with all his heart and with all his soul. Josiah kept a Passover to Yahweh. In Jerusalem there was no Passover like that kept in Israel from the days of Samuel the prophet. Yahweh, the God of their fathers, sent to them by his messengers, rising up early and sending, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of God, and despised his words, and scoffed at his prophets, until the wrath of Yahweh arose against his people, until there was no remedy. Therefore he brought on them the king of the Chaldeans, who killed their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion. They burnt the house of God, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem, and burnt all its palaces with fire, and destroyed all the goodly vessels of it. Those who had escaped from the sword he carried away to Babylon, and they were servants to him, and his sons until the reign of the kingdom of Persia, to fulfill the word of Yahweh by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed its Sabbaths. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of Yahweh by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished, Yahweh stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, Yahweh, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has commanded me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Whoever there is among you of all his people, Yahweh his God be with him, and let him go up.